You don't have to go out there and sit there and go, I am a Christian, and just yell it out. I mean, that's what maybe we should be doing, but I don't back away from it on sets if somebody brings it up. I'll challenge people back. I don't mind a good debate. I don't harbor that hatred that these people do if they have a different point of view than I got. I'm fine with that. That's what freedom of speech is supposed to be about, but we lost that in our country as well.
On today's CIA Contagious Influencers of America, we are going to talk about how to keep a marriage together, seems like forever, which Victoria and I have never been able to successfully do.
Had to throw that in, didn't you? Well, when you're Hercules, how can you not stay married?
Oh, thank you very much for that compliment. I'm David Sands.
And I'm Victoria Robinson.
We're talking about Kevin Sorbo and his lovely wife and brilliant wife, Sam.
And they're going to reveal to us how they've kept their 20-plus year marriage fresh and together in a world, David, that you know all too well, Hollywood, where 20 years is like a centurion. Isn't that 100?
If you can keep a relationship together for 6 months in Hollywood, you're ahead of the game.
We're talking 20 plus years. That is a milestone.
You know, Kevin was not only Hercules, he was in Xena, Warrior Princess. Remember that?
Yeah, I never watched it, but I remember it was a big hit.
Oh, I remember it.
Of course you do. I think every man on the planet watched Xena.
Yeah, but he has one similarity to me. I mean, he was Hercules.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm not.
And you were Popeye. And how is that similar?
Well, I do like spinach, but you know, he had a stroke.
He did.
And
That's
I had
right.
a stroke.
That's exactly right.
We both recovered, and he got the better end of the bargain because he has the muscles and I don't. By the way, I am working out now.
Yes, you are.
I want you to know,
And
I'm working out every
shows.
day.
It
Yeah.
shows.
Well, thank you
I don't know
very
why
much.
you want me to know, but it shows.
So here's our interview with Kevin and Sam Sorbo. Now, you guys have become one of those rare actor-actress couples in Hollywood whose marriage has lasted a really long time.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, you met on the set of Hercules back then, and I'm sure it had to do with the physical attraction. You're both beautiful people. But to last this long, surely your attraction must have been intellectual as well?
I think that was an attraction for me. I like a woman who's independent. I like a woman who's smart, and finally met one. No, I'll get a lot of hate mail from the exes now.
I was going to get into trouble.
No, but no, I think that is an attraction for me, certainly. And
he was very clever, and he flirted with me, and I flirted back, and I think he was like, "Oh, she flirts." And it's clever. We had some very clever banter. I'm not saying anything out of school. It was some very cute banter that went back and forth that made us both laugh. And that's very attractive when you find somebody who it just resonates. What you're putting out there resonates. It would make a good Hallmark movie. Yeah, exactly.
Our banter and how we met and how we got together.
Do you remember some of that banter? I mean, can you share it with us?
Yeah, give us the details.
Well, it was very quickly. I remember first night we worked together on Hercules. We did the last scene of the movie first, where it's a kissing scene. It's not a heavy kiss; it's a goodbye kiss. But they like to get that out of the way because maybe 2 weeks later the actors would hate each other, so they want to get that done right away. And I looked at her. I was already very attracted, and I was flirting with her already. And I walked up to her and I said, maybe we should practice this kiss. And she's laughed at me. And I also said, well, what are we going to do about this? This is a big problem. She said, what's the problem? I said, well, I'm in New Zealand, and you're in California. We got a water hazard called the Pacific Ocean between us. I have no idea how we're going to make this work. And she's laughed and said, look, I don't date actors. I don't date guys with long hair. And
I don't date long distance.
So, but I went to work on it. You can tell the rest about when I asked you to kiss me.
I said to the makeup artist, we're sitting in the chairs waiting for them to finish the lighting, and I just said very casually, does anybody have a breath mint? And the 3 makeup artists all whipped out their breath mints, which I thought was pretty funny. And then I said, oh, it's not for me, it's for him.
Touche. I thought that was pretty good.
And then I said, you know what, I'll take one. In the spirit of fairness, I'll take one too. And then he leaned over about a couple minutes later and he said, we should see if these work.
I'm just a hound dog.
Yeah.
Kevin, you're certainly best known for the role of Hercules, but I want to pivot now, and I want to talk about your move into faith-based films. And I even heard somebody recently say, gosh, it just isn't a Christian film unless Kevin Sorbo is in it.
I heard that quote. I think it was Eric Metaskis who said that.
Is that Eric?
I heard it came back to me from the NRB. I was very flattered with that. But PureFlix still hasn't used me since God's Not Dead, so I don't know what went wrong there.
You died.
Yeah, but there's other movies. And I've never worked with Erwin Brothers, so I like to work with them sometime too. But
when and where did you decide that doing purpose-driven, faith-based films was part of who God is calling you to be? Is this in your DNA, or did you just reach this point in your life where you thought there's a specific reason to do this?
No, I mean, it's funny. If you look over your shoulder, there's a poster there. It says it's called What If? And it was the very first movie I did that is unapologetically a Christian-type movie. And Dallas Jenkins directed it. And Dallas is the son of Jerry Jenkins, who wrote the Left Behind books. And Dallas sent it to me with no interest of me playing the lead role. He didn't think I'd be interested in it. Just say, hey, check it out. He's a friend. Read the script. I read it, and I called him up, and I said, who's playing Pastor Ben? He goes, I don't know. And I said, well, I want to play it. He goes, we have no money in this. This is a $400,000 budget. That's not even catering on half the big budget movies out there. And I said, no, I want to do it. So that was really my first movie that I did back in 2010 that sort of opened that door. And to be honest with you, I think What If's a better movie than God's Not Dead. But PureFlix just didn't have the money or the power or the strategy behind to promote it properly, because it's a good movie. And I can say that, hopefully not offending PureFlix, because it's their movie and it's the same writers of God's Not Dead. So it's a compliment. And I tell people all the time when I do speaking events, rent What If, because it is just a lot more humor in it. It's great for all ages, and it's a great story. It's a great message in there. I used to get stopped all the time for Hercules or Andromeda when I travel. I travel a lot. Like, I looked at my schedule. I'm only home 7 days over the next 4 weeks. And I look at that, and I look at the airports I go through. People stop me all the time now because of What If, God's Not Dead, Abel's Field, Let There Be Light now. I mean, this is what they stop me for. Please make more movies like that. And I go, well, then get out and support them, because it is a business, right? It's called show business, not show. So these movies need to be supported by the 80 million people out there that are being basically ignored from Hollywood, because Hollywood has its own agenda to push. So support these movies. And that was the movie that opened the door for me to say, yeah, I want to do more of these, because I enjoyed it.
So you went from this to what, Soul Surfer?
I went from this to, it was Soul Surfer, then God's Not Dead. Then I did a movie called Abel's Field, which I'm kind of a modern-day Cain and Abel type movie. I did the Prodigal Son type movie. I've done... I got one coming out called One Nation Under God, where I finally get to play a nice teacher in high school, a good guy. And he has a debate class after school hours, and he very slyly works in that as a debate between a new freshman student who's a Christian against the senior, who's a very good debater, who happens to be the son of the principal of the school, and who calls me in and he says, we can't talk about God in school. And blah. I said, it wasn't my idea. Well, whose idea was it? And I go, it was your son's. And then he goes, okay, let him debate this little punk freshman, So it was a fun movie. And then I had an action faith-based movie coming out called The Reliant, which is faith-driven, but it's really an action movie. It just shows, it deals with the economic collapse of America. And if that does, when that does, there will be people, there'll be riots, there'll be all kinds of stuff going on. It'll be a pretty scary time.
Of all of these films that you've done over the last 7-8 years, which one really do you find is the one that really is the standout for you personally?
I think Let There Be Light. I'd give What If a close second, but I directed Let There Be Light. Sam co-wrote it with Dan Gordon, who's a wonderful writer. Dan wrote The Hurricane with Denzel Washington. He got nominated for an Academy Award for that. He was the showrunner and head writer on Highway to Heaven with Michael Landon. He says he owes Michael everything. That's where he learned everything, his craft about TV. But it would have to be Let There Be Light, because I directed it. I started directing back in my Hercules years, but this for me was I was very fortunate to get a great team behind me on both sides of the camera. And I've always, even when I act, I like to keep a light and fun set. And I think I'm pretty good at doing that. And I said, instead, let's be professionals here, but at the same time, let's have fun, guys. We're lucky to be working in this industry. So many people want to be working in this industry, and here we are. So I gotta say, Let There Be Light was very satisfying for me.
When you opt to do these particular projects, is there something that you are trying to accomplish over and above just acting, doing a gig? Is there a message? Is there a purpose behind each of these?
I think, I wanted to be an actor, and I think a lot of actors want to be actors because I want to affect people.
Yeah, exactly.
I want my movies, TV shows, basically to do what it did for me growing up and through my teens and 20s, where you look at something and you learn maybe something that makes you cry, makes you laugh, and makes you move. I wanted to move people like that too. I wanted, I've done some crazy roles and I wish I hadn't done just because the movies ended up sucking. So it's kind of go, why did I do those movies? But you don't know that going in. I mean, I get a lot of scripts and I read the first 20 pages. If it doesn't hold my interest, I just move on. And it's the toughest thing is raising money. I mean, we got lucky with Let There Be Light because Hannity called me and said, Sorbo, it's Hannity, I want to do a movie with you. I didn't know Sean that well. I've been on his shows a number of times, but we weren't buddies and hanging out. But he really wanted to get into that world, and he wanted to see if he could put out a movie with a good message. And he was a fan of me. So maybe Eric Metaskis is right. You have to put me in Sorbo in a movie. But we flew to New York. We pitched him. He wrote the check right then and there. 3 months later, we're filming the movie. 6 months later, it's out. Doesn't happen that way. Money doesn't chase scripts. It's the other way around. There's so many movies out there. I get through my fan site, without exaggerating, I probably get 10 to 12 emails every day from people saying, look, I got a script or I got an idea for a script. And I keep putting out there through LinkedIn and stuff. I go, guys, if it's not funded, I don't have the time or energy. I've got my own projects that I've been putting together for years. I mean, I've whittled down from 200 scripts down to about a dozen that I want to do. And they're not all faith-based. I mean, there's some comedies in there, some action ones in there. So there's a mixture in there. It's just a matter of raising the money for them.
Where do you see the business going? I mean, the streaming thing, from my perspective, all the action seems to be in Netflix and Amazon, and it's amazing what is happening.
They own the world right now. The amount of money that they make, Netflix, are you kidding me? I've heard they've got 200 projects online. I don't know what the number is. I pay my $20 a month. How many millions of people do that? They raise so much money. Studios are flipping out. Disney now is taking about all their product from them, and they want to copy that model. They have to. The studios have to change to survive. Netflix is, look at the building they have here in LA. Let There Be Light was so successful that they called me. And I had a meeting with the television department and the movie department there. And we go in there and we pitch them. I pitched them a really good family show. And it's not faith-based. It's Little House on the Prairie, but it's set in South Africa. It's a very good show with some action. It's not Touched by an Angel. It's more like Punched by an Angel, So it's got good stuff to it, but it's got a really good message in there. And they're just going, we're hemming and hawing about it. They're so, it's weird to me. Why would you not it's show business. Why wouldn't you pay attention to the tens of millions of people in those flyover states that want something that is good for their kids to watch and good for families to watch? It's weird to me that you mentioned earlier about all the anger out there and the hatred. And it's gotten to a point that people can't even be people anymore and be civil to each other. So
you would think they'd learn something from the success of Roseanne.
The Last Man Standing.
Yeah.
You want to call that a right-leaning show? It's one character. His kids are not right-leaning. They're all lefties in there, So they need to. It's weird to me. I wish I could get into their minds, but then again, it might scare the hell out of me to go there. So
I see where we are today versus 5 years ago, and I think we made some significant progress. You know what I'm really proud of? I'm proud of the exhibitors.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they figured out that Christian films, faith-based films, attract families, and they eat a lot more popcorn. That works,
But you know what's interesting? They gave my movie, Let There Be Light, a PG-13 rating. It took me a long time to get through there to find out what was going on. And I said, this is ridiculous, guys. It's a PG movie. They go to that extreme. They said, well, there's a scene there where you're taking pharmaceuticals, and you're addicted to them and you're drinking. That's it. And there's a car crash. So you don't see. And I started listing all these movies with the sex and the violence and hundreds of people getting killed with the same rating. And you gave my movie that thing? there's people within that rating board that there's no way they want to hurt these movies. It's like Rotten Tomatoes, right? They don't want people to go to these movies. So they give it a PG-13 so the parents will go, oh, we can't take our 10-year-old. Your 10-year-old can see Let There Be Light. But this is the battle we're fighting. It's amazing to me.
That's the MPAA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they have an agenda, obviously.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. Yeah.
So how do you guys keep it together in Hollywood in this environment? I mean, we're in such a crazy place right now, and it just keeps building.
Yeah. How do you keep it together without saying, gosh, let's just pack it up, move to Montana?
I'm ready to move. Trust me, she's ready to move.
Yeah.
I think the fact that we moved 40 miles north of LA helps a little bit, too. There's more sanity in the area we live in here.
It's interesting because, years ago, we went to an opening night of a film. But it was like a private screening.
Yeah.
But it was big. There were a lot of people there.
A lot of A-list actors there.
A lot of A-list actors. And he turned to me and he said, can you smell it? And I was like, what? He said, the desperation.
You could feel it.
It's a very desperate town. And so, yes.
There's a lot of phony friendships within the industry. There's a lot of, you're wonderful, but the knife is behind their back with the other hand.
And we could see it. We could see these relationships, these people, oh, hi, how are you? Yeah. And you know that, and they turn away and you see the faces they turn away is like, ugh.
It reminds me of the scene in The Way We Were with Robert Redford and Barbara Streisand. And Robert Redford makes this movie, and it's really a crap movie. And one of the women that is friends with him walks up and she goes, darling, it was so much like life, and walked away. And you could see his reaction was just like, screw you. Right. He knew that she was phony. And that is what it's like. There's just so much, like you mentioned, all the anger, divisiveness, hatred, everything that's going on right now from the politics side and from the envy and ego side. I mean, it just seems to just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm sure there's solid friendships in that world, but you could see it that night. There's just a lot of phoniness.
Yeah, that night was really kind of a telling thing. Yeah. But so we did. We moved outside of LA. We don't do a lot of those kinds of things just because.
I don't want to drive 2 hours when it's 40 miles away.
But we're happy also to not do it. And then the occasional ones that we do end up at, strangely, we don't experience that as much. I think because we pick and choose the projects. And so we made a commitment to our marriage early on. We don't spend more than 2 weeks apart at any given time. And so in order to make that work, I mean, there's a sacrifice there. So when the kids were younger, I would just pack the kids up and we would travel. And we still do, actually. Mm-hmm. And that set kind of the precedent for the whole relationship, including with our kids, is that we don't travel without the kids typically. And so they're used to traveling with, so it just set up the whole thing. And I think that if you allow yourself to, if you're okay with not doing that, then your marriage will necessarily suffer, because a marriage is, by definition, you have to be together. And so if you're okay being apart, then that's going to be more of a struggle to keep it together if you allow it to basically to separate so much. And that's why I think we see a lot of divorces in Hollywood, is they just, the grass is always greener. You're always going to find something attractive about someone else. So if you allow yourself to do that, you're not going to keep a marriage. We're 20 years.
Wow, that's something to be proud of for sure. Kevin, would you recommend that a kid jump into this business, or go to school or film school, or just, I mean, let's face it, you can shoot a movie now on your iPhone. Yeah. There's really no excuse. You can have worldwide distribution on YouTube with short films, right?
That's amazing.
So what would you recommend to some kid that's 15, 16, 17 years old that is a good storyteller, has a heart for filmmaking?
What would I tell him?
Yeah.
You got to pursue it. You're going to meet rejection everywhere. And in today's world, you're going to meet even more. And I get, once again, through the fan site, through my website, kevinsorbo.net, I get a lot of emails from those kids, the high school and college kids, that say, look, I'm like the only Christian in my university, but I want to be an actor. I want to get involved. I want to move to LA. And I tell them, I said, then move to LA. Move to New York. I said, get yourself in class. You're going to get pushback. You don't have to go out there and sit there and go, I am a Christian, and just yell it out. I mean, that's what maybe we should be doing, but I don't back away from it on sets if somebody brings it up. I'll challenge people back. I don't mind a good debate. I don't harbor that hatred that these people do if they have a different point of view than I got. I'm fine with that. That's what freedom of speech is supposed to be about, but we lost that in our country as well.
Mm-hmm.
Tolerance is a one-way street now, and freedom of speech is in that same area code. So it's sad that it's happened, but I tell these kids the reality, it's happening, but don't just come out here. Well, what if I get offered parts I don't? Well, then don't do those parts. I mean, it's, you talk about all this stuff going, this hashtag Me Too right now. The casting couch has been alive and well in Hollywood forever. We all know that. Has it hurt people's careers? Yes, it has. And I feel sorry for those women. But there are plenty of women out there, I'm not going to name names, that have slept their way to the top. Mm-hmm. It's out there. And it's known in Hollywood. People know who they are. Mm-hmm. And even they've jumped on that bandwagon now too. Oh, it happened to me too. I've been on TV and movie sets, and I've seen the actresses flirt with the producers, flirt with the directors. It's there. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors all the time, but I certainly know that the flirtation thing is there. And they, those that are really affected by it, they should be at hashtag Me Too, but not the ones that are jumping in just to jump on that bandwagon.
Do you think that there is a big change coming in the way we consume media in the next 4 or 5 years as compared to where we've been over the last 10, 20, 30 years?
Yeah, but I think people were afraid of that when TV first came out, right? The movies, oh my gosh, TV is going to destroy it. I still like going to the movie theaters. I think that's always going to be there. If they turn into the megaplexes, right? So, I mean, you can't have the standalone ones anymore, and that's all there used to be. The drive-in movie theaters are gone. I miss that. We had one in my little hometown in Minnesota. But it's definitely going to be, your iPhone and iPad and your computer. That's what they do. College kids don't have TVs in their dorm rooms anymore. They got their computer. How does Nielsen follow that, by the way? But anyway, I think movies will always be there. I think people love that. They love that. It's just that social scene. I don't like going to a packed movie theater. I like it when I go and there's nobody there. I kind of like that.
So like owning the theater.
Yeah, I'll wait the third week it's out and go to the 10 a.m., if it's a hit movie and still lasting 3 weeks later. I know I enjoy also going occasionally to a comedy or something when there's a big group of people, as long as I can get a good seat. Because it's fun. It's contagious, that laughter, and that reaction from the audience. So I did it with Let There Be Light. I did it with God's Not Dead, where they had me go to theaters and sit in the back, and sneak in there and listen to people's reactions. And it was fun. It was fun for me to sit there and go, they get it. They laughed at that point. They cried at that point. I like that. And to me, that makes it successful. But I don't think movies will ever go away. Just more and more people will just do it off their computers. So,
how do you look back at your life and you can see how this connected to this, connected to this, connected to this? How do you look at that? Do you think to yourself, you know what? Maybe there was a grand plan. I couldn't see it at the time, but maybe God did have my back. Maybe I made that dumb movie for a particular reason. Maybe I met my wife on the set of Hercules when I had absolutely no plan on meeting my wife on the set of Hercules, right?
It is interesting. I've known since I was 11 years old I want to be an actor. I just knew it. But I was a jock. I kept it to myself because where I grew up in my little hometown of Minnesota, all the jocks, anybody in your drama classes and junior high and high school, a bunch of wussies. The reality, I wanted to be in there, but I let peer pressure control my life that way, and I didn't really get involved until I got in my university days. So I think university really opens up a door to a lot of people to get out of that clique, and you're meeting new friends and meeting new places, and you sort of say, okay, I'm going to try to be a little bit more me. And I still was that jock, but I got involved in the acting classes. It's interesting. I was going to move to L.A., and here again is one of these other divine interventions in a way. I meet a girl, fall in love with this girl. She says, I'm moving to Dallas. She was a big-time model, been traveling the world already since she was 14. I was 22. She was 19. And I said, okay. So I moved to Dallas with her. Spent a year and a half in Dallas. Joined the theater group down there. Joined with the Kim Dawson agency. It was a big agency down there. Did commercial work, some print work, and things like that. Got a job on weekends as a bouncer at this club. Had a blast doing that. Met a lot of people. Met a lot of people I'm still friends with at this day, which is interesting. I said, okay, I'm moving to L.A. She goes, just come to Italy with me for 3 months. Just come there and spend time in Milan. I said, you know what? I've never been to Europe. Why not? I'm not even, I'm turning 24 soon. I'm still young. I'm 23. So we go to Italy. 3 months turns into 3.5 years. I go back Christmas time after my 3.5 years in Europe. I get a call from them and say, hey, there's a client who wants to see you now next week. Can you come here? I go out there. I'm in LA 3 days, and I'm on a plane to Australia. I booked a commercial. So I go to Australia. I said, I'm going to stay. I stayed for over 6 months. My agent flipped out. You just moved to LA. And I said, keep my car. I'll pay rent, pay whatever you want me to do. But I stayed in Australia. So all these things that completely, I was going to go from Minneapolis to LA. And all of a sudden, 4 years goes by, five years goes by. I'm 27 when I moved to LA. Actually, 2 months away from turning 28. So it was kind of a late start to really even get out there. And yeah, I think there was reasons for that.
You went to Europe with a girl. What happened to her?
I grew up watching old movies with my mom. I think it's one reason why I want to be an actor. Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn, Clark Gable, Cagney, all those guys. I love those guys, We went and saw a concert in Munich that night. And it was, my gosh, I should know his name. I just can't remember his name right now. George Winston. It was George Winston.
Yeah.
And I was always a fan of his music. I got a wide taste in fans. So we went to it, and we went to the concert. The tension was already there because she didn't want me to pursue acting. She wanted me to go back to Minnesota, work for her stepfather's real estate company. And I said, all my life, this is my dream. We've been together now 4 or 5 years. And she said, yeah, but it's going to be so hard out there, but he's an actor, blah, 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 blah. And it was a very sad concert for both of us. We sat there, we got on the subway, went back to our little apartment, and I just started to pack. And she's sitting on the edge of the bed. I remember it was a very small little apartment we had. And I packed, and I got to the door, and I turned back to look at it. It was right out of a black and white movie. And I just said, she goes, I can't believe you're leaving me. And I said, I can't believe you won't let me follow my dream. Walked out the door, got on the subway, took it to the Munich train station, got on the midnight train, paid a little extra at first class because I wanted to have the place to myself. I wanted to think. And I sat up there with my luggage. I rolled down the window as you go through the Bavarian Alps there and down into the Italian Alps on my way to Milan. It was probably an 8-hour train ride. You get in the morning there. And I just looked at the beautiful moonlit sky and just thought about my life and said, that stage is over. This is my next stage. I'm moving on. And I had success. I get Hercules, 7 years, becomes the most watched TV show in the world. She never called to say congratulations, nothing.
Wow.
You've never heard from her again?
Never heard from her again.
Have you looked her up on Facebook?
No. No. I just find that interesting. Anyway.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. We all have all have one of those, right?
It's like never. Wow. Kind of weird.
Yeah. I just want to talk 1 minute about the time you had your stroke.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that a time that you really asked yourself? I mean, my gosh, it's not like you were in bad shape or anything.
No, I was in great shape. I was in better shape than most guys in their 20s. I'm in my 30s playing Hercules. I was working 12-hour days and lifting weights 2 hours every day. Loving it,
Did you just ask God, what the heck? Why me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been having problems with that left arm for a long time and blown it off because I was doing most of my own stunts because I loved it. I enjoyed it. My ego said I could do it. And I got back to the States. Universal Studios was basically prepping me to be the next action hero, taking over for Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just had done Call the Conqueror right there. And it was coming out. I did like 2 weeks of PR for it. And my arm was killing me the whole time. And before we could figure out anything what it was an aneurysm that had opened up. Had been sending clots for months into this arm, but it opened up and it sent 3 clots into my brain. One to my speech, one to my vision, one to my balance. The balance was the one affected the most. The speech came back. I worked very hard to make it come back, but I read out loud 2 hours a day, just on diction, just working, just clearing through the words and getting through it. And then the balance was brutal. It took me 4 months to even learn how to really stand up and walk again. It was tough.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a 10% loss in both eyes of vision, both in the upper right quadrant. So, 90%'s there, so I get by, obviously. And I had another movie lined up, had to fall out. Patrick Swayze replaced me in the movie. It's called Black Dog with Meat Loaf and Randy Travis. And it was very frustrating. And that studios all just ran away then. They it's done. But the studio, Universal, kept the TV show going. When I went back 4 months later to start season 6 on Hercules, I went from a 12 to 14-hour day to 1 hour a day. Anything they could do to keep it alive. They just did a lot of stunt casting, and they worked around me. If they could just somehow do 2 scenes a day with me over those 8 to 10 days shooting, there's 16 to 20 scenes at least they could throw in to keep my character alive, just talking and walking or whatever. But God, we wrestled. God and I wrestled a lot. I was angry. I was like, my career was going. Why did you take this away? He didn't take it away. But, it's what we do in life. We blame everybody else for the bad things that happen in our lives. And reality is, look in the mirror. There's your problem. And Sam, of course, my wife, she was tough with me. In Pittsburgh, New York, tough. And she said, it happened. What are you going to do about it? Instead of feeling sorry for yourself. And she was right. So I finally reached a peace with God and said, that I need your help. And I remember I openly wept about 4 weeks into it because I felt like somebody had died. I felt like I will never be the same person again the rest of my life. And I wasn't, and I still am not. And it happened for a reason. And that led to my book being written, True Strength. That led to me start doing speaking events. That led to me basically pissing off Hollywood by coming out as a conservative and a Christian, which I've always been, and them stop using me. So much for tolerance, right? And it opened the door to what if in family movies and things like that, and speaking. I do a lot of speaking events, things I never thought I'd be doing in my life. I never thought of not doing a Christian movie, but I didn't come to LA to think of any specific genre. I knew I wasn't going to be a porn star, so there was no interest there. But I knew I wanted to be in movies and TV. So Hercules just happened to be the one that fell in my lap and turned out to be much bigger than I thought it'd ever be. But it was tough, and it was frustrating at first. But I got to a place where I just, this is what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be like now. And I'm grateful for this. I've loved doing these movies because it's touched people in so many ways. And that's what I wanted to do in the first place.
Finally, I want to ask you, what has your marriage, what has Sam done for you that has just made a big difference?
She stuck by my side. I mean, that was 4 months before we were going to get married. My strokes happened. And I told her in the hospital, I remember when I was able to have a little more, be able to speak a little bit, just said, look, you can walk away. I get it. I don't know what I'm going to be like now. I certainly don't want to be, she got, she's getting the worst part before even saying for better or worse. And I didn't want to have to go through that.
So what happened?
She made the decision to be there for me. She made the decision to stick by my side. And that was huge. She was like, you are going to get through this. Because I've always been a very strong-willed person. I'm not one to back down from any kind of challenge. And I knew Hollywood, was not going to be an easy road for me. And I knew that I had to go sell myself. And I'm not your typical Hollywood actor either, whatever that's supposed to mean. But people can put the stereotypes on. There are a lot of stereotypes that exist for a reason. But Sam was huge in making me push myself. She gave me a mantra to say every day in the mirror when I got up and crawl my way to the bathroom. And that was, I'm getting better, I'm getting stronger. And say it to myself, look in the mirror and say, I'm getting better and stronger. And she says, say it 1,000 times if you have to believe it for that day. And it was huge for me. And there was a neurologist from the USC Medical Center. And he told me when I talked about putting the wedding on hold, he said, don't put your life on hold. I looked at him and he goes, don't put your life on hold. We do that too often in life. And he was right. And there was a doctor I was seeing down in New Zealand. He said that I had to find a way to look at this as a gift.
Really?
That, you got to find a place to be grateful instead of being negative. And I tell it to my atheist friends, agnostic friends, I say, you don't have to be religious, but you can have a grateful prayer where you're in your car and you're going, I really am grateful that I got someone in my life that cares for me. I'm grateful that I have hot water in my house. I'm grateful the sun's out today. We get so caught up. And I think the world right now, especially in America, needs to find a grateful place.
Yeah.
Good stuff, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, Victoria, Kevin and I have a lot in common.
You do. You've loved beautiful women.
And I had a stroke.
And you had a stroke.
And I'm now building muscles. I'm not Hercules yet, but I'm
I wouldn't
working
say
on it.
that's something you guys have in common. He already has his. You're still working on yours. I mean, he is Hercules.
When I lived out in California in Thousand Oaks, we actually lived a couple miles from one another.
Did you know each other then?
I did not know Kevin and Sam back in those days, but a couple of years ago when they had the big fires out there, a couple of years ago, they seem to have a fire out there every other day. But
yeah, they do.
The fires came and burned right down his property, right down to their property. But they were fine.
Wow.
But they're an amazing couple.
Yeah, great couple. And they're an inspiration.
Can't wait to see what their next project
me too.
happens to be. So that's this edition of CIA. I'm David Sams, and you've been listening to Contagious Influencers of America from the producers of Keep the Faith.
You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram or go to KeepTheFaith.com.
Now, if you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope you sure did, please go to Apple Podcast and subscribe, rate, and review Contagious Influencers of America. That's real important, people. The more support we get from you at Apple, the more that people find out about us.
Hey, and join us next week. And of course, thanks for listening.
And remember to go out there and live that life in living color, because it sure is a heck of a lot more interesting than living it in black and white. See you next time.